Building ambition on the road to COP30. We are obviously not yet at COP30, we're only at COP28, but I think it's really fantastic that starting this conversation already. I was part of the team that worked on COP26, and for us actually it was ultimately quite helpful that the COP26 was delayed. That gave us much more time to plan and work towards the future. So I think this is really good that this conversation started. We've got an amazing panellist here today. I'm Jennie Dodson, I'm the Senior Director at the World Business Council for Sustainable Development. We're obviously part of the We Mean Business Coalition, and also fantastic, we've got Sabajas here as well, who is part of the global network partnership of a number of different organisations around the world. So first of all, I'm going to ask Maria Mandaluce, CEO of the We Mean Business Coalition, to give a few scene-setting remarks. Please, Maria.
Hi, good. Bom dia. So we're very much looking forward to going to Brazil, to whatever you invite us to go to. And I'm especially very happy to be doing the opening remarks of this session, because I know Marina for the past, 15 years. And we have always worked so well before at the World Business Council and now at Women Business. So I think what is great about having Brazil hosting COP30 is that we have a long time to prepare for that. And the coalition is very ready to partner with you and to prepare so that COP is very successful. So one could think, those that have followed the process, that maybe this COP, that is going really well, was like Cancun, I don't know. But COP30 is when countries are going to update their NDCs. So that is a very, very important moment when countries are going to ratchet, right? And so we are laying the ground for what it is to happen there. At Women Business, we launched a campaign which is called Fossil to Clean, because we believe that we need to triple renewables, double energy efficiency, and we need to address the cause of climate change, which is burning fossil fuels. And that needs to be included in the international agreement. And you might think, why is that so important? Well, because then that will be included in the NDCs that you are going to have such an important role in providing the guidelines on how that update is going to do and creating the movement and pressure for that to happen. And that will lead to regulations. And that will lead to the very much needed fact that when companies are going to build anything that is clean, it would be much easier, because right now all the regulations are made for fossil fuel at the moment. And so we just need to make it ready also for clean technologies. So the continuation of the fossil to clean into the NDCs is very important for us. Now, the second thing that I would like to engage with you going forward is how do we bring the SMEs to the COP. So Women Business launched the SME Climate Hub 3 years ago. And what we're doing is helping SMEs to set climate targets. Big companies have SBTI, and we are a founding member, and I'm in the board of SBTI, but we have created the same for SMEs, but in a way that it makes it easy for them. We have calculators, we have education tools, etc. So I would love to partner with you to develop an SME Climate Hub in Portuguese and to work with the SME organizations in Brazil. And we need to start working on it now, because we need to build to your COP so that it is a very inclusive COP. And finally, I think it would be really good, to mobilize more Brazilian business, to set commitments, to be advocates for change. I'm very pleased. I know that we have Natura here. So in my board of Women Business, we have Roberto now. And where is Natura? It's there. Okay. So Roberto is with us now. And so also a resource to be deployed when we get there. And we hope that we can have more Brazilian voices leading the conversation from now until then. And in that sense, you can count on us. So without further ado, let me then go back to Marina, my friend, to take over. And I will come here and I'll sit there. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Maria. Maria is, as she said, a very, very old good friend. And that's about confidence, to make this journey from Dubai to Berlin, that we can count on the international business, women business, with the world business, that we also are discussing to see how we can make this journey more effective, and how can we put the questions that Brazil is so important for Brazil, such as green economy, bioeconomy, nature-based solutions. There's so many things, all the way to G20, Davos, BRICS, and finally on COP and COP30 in 25 and beyond. But I have Isabella here that we have to leave soon. That's why I may talk to you later a little bit more. But let me give the floor to Isabella because she has to leave very soon. Não, você fala. Okay, Jennie, you want to ask everyone to come here, and then Isabella starts.
It's better, no?
Very organised. Yeah, so we've got a... No, but this is great. This is great. We're all co-creating the session together, which is fantastic. So I think we've got an amazing panel here. So perhaps we get them all up, and then Isabella, it'd be great to have you speak first. So we've got Isabella Teixeira, former Minister of the Environment of Brazil. We've got André Correa de Lago, Secretary of Climate, Energy, Environment. Please, if you'd like to come up. Kevin Macedo, Sustainability Director of Natura. Madalena Lucas, Head of Climate EDP, and I think Marina, do you want to also come up? I think you should be up here as well. And I will pass. So we've got absolutely amazing panel. So I'm really looking forward to hearing all of your insights, your challenges, your kind of asks to people here about the kind of the support and effort needed. But Isabel, perhaps you want to kind of share with us a little bit about, what's the opportunity, for Brazil in the next couple of years, and what are you hoping to see out of the outcomes, and what's needed over the next couple of years to sort of get you there.
Okay, thank you very much. Good afternoon. I'm sorry, I do apologize because I have to leave. I have another meeting. It's not here, so it takes time. But my first comment is opportunity for me, and I think that we also, all the Brazilians must understand this, is that Brazil must be back, but the future must be back. So the first opportunity is exactly to discuss future, okay, and not discuss anymore past. And this is very important because we have been discussing climate change the last 30 years, and not necessarily you have all the outcomes that you need to manage better the life in the planet. So this is a powerful message for Brazil, because Brazil is a country with alternatives. And this is very important. It's not only alternative to play or to run low-carbon economy, but it's alternative to share solutions in short-term perspectives. And this is the second point. If you want to bring the world to Brazil to discuss the next 10 years of Paris Agreement, because COP30 is Paris plus 10 years, it's very important to understand how Brazil will come to provide, or to have an inclusive COP, but also to provide, together with other countries around the world, solutions for developing countries. We need to allow Global South to play. And this is an inclusive COP. Okay? This is a political inclusiveness, economic ones. It's very important, in my opinion, that Brazil, in the next 2 years, at the national level, Brazil be committed. What would you like to do? How would you like to do? With whom would you like to do? Based on concrete rules, and to allow private sector to be a partner. So we need to understand what is our new ambition. It's not only NDC, etc., etc. This is the formalities. We're discussing about the climate politics. How will come into the context of BRICS Plus, of G20, other like-minded arrangements around the world, and how Brazil will be committed nationally and will be negotiate with around the world, the rest of the world, to be committed with additional pledges considered COP. My third point here is, in my opinion, is very important to unlock net zero. Because net zero is something that we believe that should happen from 2030 to 2060. Okay, for India, 2070. Okay, you need to discuss this in an open way with credibility, transparency, and also to allow countries to come together. Because you have some countries that would like to have a slow pace, considering decarbonization. The other ones that don't have alternative, for example, to discuss energy transition, so they are back discussing energy security. Okay, and it's also very interesting how Brazil will use the convergence of climate change age with innovation age and also bio age, how Brazil would like to propose a new way to approach global issues and to make sure that the global society, with the diversity of situations, will be able to embrace this agenda and these challenges, understanding that it's not only to allocate funds. It's really a commitment to change. And I understand that's really a huge opportunity for us in our country, also to value something that's very precious in the world. We have nature, we have peace. This is very important to observe. More than 150 years that we have peace with our neighbors. We have democracy. President Lula is back because of Brazilian democracy. Okay? And also, I think that we have something very important. We are so creative. And we need to use our diversity of society as an asset to come and to try to bring the world together. So Brazil must use the next 2 years and after this the next 10 years to mobilize its society to be prepared to become a leader. Not self-nominated leader, but the world must see us as a society that wants to lead because they're able to share, to have solidarity, and also to play together with all the people around the world. So it's a new way to see Africa, it's a new way to see South America, Latin America, it's a new way to see global north, it's a new way to bring credibility and trust, it's a new way to deal with non-West countries. So it's really new. All the geopolitical conditions that we had to have Paris agreements, all of them, they are over. We have new dimensions in the world. It is very important to understand how the future is coming. It's very important to understand also how a country like Brazil should come together with the world. We are the country that's the most important life producer in the world. This is our alternative. Would you like to produce life, or would you like to take decision to produce disasters or go against nature? And to grow with nature is, okay, everyone agree, but it's really complex. To decouple things, recouple things, and make sure that we have, for example, economies, a new economy. Brazil must go beyond greenwashing. It's not greenwashing, it's greenwashing. If you go beyond this and you're able to provide green doing, we need to look for fair development, and this means, for example, fair price for carbon considered the developed world versus developing countries. So it's important to have partnerships. It's important to make sure that we are not looking for pledge of money for small donations. We're looking for new dynamics of financing and how private sector, business sector, and also the society should come with co-responsibility. This means comes together. And I hope that Brazil will use the next 2 years to rebuild nationally, because we need a lot to do, but to order the complexity of the world today, consider climate development. Climate finance is critical, everything is critical, but please don't try to reinvent the wheel. We need to move the pieces and make sure that we can connect the dots and make sure that we have a legacy, because we discuss the future. So Brazil is back, and I hope that the world must be back. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Isabella. I think that was super inspiring, and I love that kind of focus on opportunity, the future. Not just looking at COP30, as that moment, but for the next 10 years. And I could really speak to the kind of innovation and dynamism of Brazil. Having been a researcher in Brazil for a couple of years, I really think there's a lot to learn and a lot of kind of amazing connections as well in South America and to the global South. Sandre, fantastic. Thank you so much for coming. Really appreciate you being here. I think it'd be fantastic to hear a little bit more about, what are the government's priorities for COP20 to COP30? What is it that you're really hoping to achieve? What is it that you need from others to help you achieve that as well?
Well, thank you for the invitation, first of all. I'm very glad to be here. I want to continue a little on what Isabella mentioned. I think she mentioned something that is extremely important, is Brazil is a country with many options, and including many bad options. So we have to direct the decisions to go to the good options. No? Because some countries, unfortunately, have no options or have very few options and depend completely on international advice or international support to be able to go ahead into this new world that I believe offers more opportunities for Brazil than any other era that I have lived, at least in this post-war. So I think there is a huge opportunity. There is a Brazil that exists already that can use this moment to give a new dimension to the country. And what do I call by a new dimension in the country? Brazil is a country that has already achieved many things. I think that it is very impressive that we have some very strong institutions, very strong businesses, very strong scientists, etc. But what I think is interesting to see is how Brazil can be at ease, and even more in the Lula government, how Brazil can be at ease in the G20 and in the BRICS Plus. And I think this is a very important contribution that Brazil can give. We have a new geopolitical situation that is changing very quickly, and I believe that we can play a role that we never had before. You know that when we were at the G20 summit in New Delhi, some developed countries some friends of mine were telling me it's terrible because what we feel in the G20 is that now the world is divided between the G7 and the BRICS Plus. And the G20 is the instrument in which we can bring together, and that is why we have to have an agreement in the G20. And as you remember, some countries from Europe, US, etc., were criticized for being maybe too open for the declaration. But some of the negotiators told me if we don't have a declaration here, we are officially declaring that the world is divided between the G7 and the BRICS Plus. And we don't want that. And Brazil is not in the G7, but has a very good dialogue with all of them, is in the middle of this BRICS Plus. And we have this sequence, which is to be preparing COP30, and on the way to COP30, we're presiding G20 next year and BRICS Plus the year after. So it is a series of coincidences because you don't decide that. It was not decided by the government, not at all. It's a series of coincidences, but it's a very happy coincidence, even more for the preparation of COP30. So Brazil is here. The first thing, the first message very clearly is that we believe in science. Brazil is back and better, I think, no? Because much. So we believe in science. And if we believe in science, we know we are living an emergency. We are in a situation that is very terrible. So, for instance, this decision of President Lula and the first results we had this year of the reduction of emission is a country concentrating on its main problem, the main source of emissions in Brazil is deforestation. We are dealing with our main source of emission. Very few countries concentrate on their main source of emission. They love to deal with all the surrounding emissions, 3%, 4%, 5%. We are dealing with 50% of our emission, and we have reduced very successfully this. This will reveal a new profile of the country, and that's where business has an enormous position to say, because strangely, our main source of emission is not a source of wealth of the country, because deforestation favors very few people. But the moment that we avoid our emissions from deforestation, you're going to see a normal country, because we have a very atypical profile of emissions. And that's where business has an enormous role, is that then you're going to see the right proportion of transport, the right proportion of industry, the right proportion of building, all a new profile of Brazil emissions. And I believe that there is, and this is something that I feel very strongly, and the fact that we have the largest delegation in the world in this COP shows it, is that whatever sector of the Brazilian economy, everything I hear is that they are all conscious of how climate change is changing completely the rules. So we come as a developing country, obviously, but the ninth economy, with lots of businesses that have incorporated climate change into their thinking, that are presenting solutions, that are open to talk and to deal with others, and with the government that has presented a plan of ecological transformation that shows that we want to do an economy-wide approach to climate change. I mean, and this is something that Isabella worked very hard in Paris, was to prepare our NDCs economy-wide. And it's very important that we see that China has already committed to have an economy-wide new NDC, and many developing countries are joining in that. So we have, I think this is very ingrained already in Brazil. Brazil is very ready to offer many solutions. I'm not going to give here a list or an apology of the glorious things that we are ready to do, but I think that there is this very strong interaction at the moment of science, academics, business, and the government, and the local governments, which is also very important. Because Brazil, to do the COP in Belém, which is, by the way, a lovely city with unbelievable food, and very few hotel rooms for the moment. I know. But the food is amazing. But do it in Belém. You know, this is the typical Brazilian decision. I mean, where is the state, which state in Brazil deforested more in the last 40 years? Pará. So we're doing it at the center of the irony and the complexity of this country. And I think it's amazing that we're going to expose not the city that everybody wants to go. It's my city, it's Rio de Janeiro. We're not going to go to a place with beaches. I said, no, we're going to a place that has huge problems, conscious of its problems, and trying to find solutions. So I think we are extremely excited at having a new role in the world, a very constructive role, fortunately, and be that bridge. And that's why we're insisting so much on the 1.5, because it's science. And that's why we are also trying a lot to be a bridge between this division that we see in the negotiation, because we have a sense of emergency. It's not the Brazil of 10 years ago when we were negotiating, because we had much less emergency at that time. Now we have science telling us we have very little time. So this period from Dubai to Belém, I think, will be critical, and I think that our role is to embrace, listen to you, and try to find solutions. Thank you.
May I add?
Yeah.
May I add two comments?
Thank you, Andrea. Yeah, thank you.
I'd like to observe two things, because Andrea is so provocative. My first thing, it's important to recognize that Brazil is a country that is part of the new world that is emerging. a new economic world that's emerging. Okay, it's very important to understand this because the emerging economies, G7 versus G20, BRICS Plus, etc., we need to understand that the world is changing, and Brazil will emerge with really strategic political and economic country that need to make the difference considering the new economies, the new challenges that the planet is put pressure on us. The second thing is, as a democracy, or a democratic country, we need to understand what are things that are not well addressed. For example, more space for civil society at the global level. Okay? We need to understand our role to make sure how we can embrace this and promote really, really strategic global debate about political inclusiveness. And my last point, it's very, very important to connect the things. It's not only social inequalities. We have the complexity of social inequality around the world. You have environmental inequalities, unfortunately. And the crisis related to natural resource that connect all the planetary crises, it's very important to observe how would you like to address this, connecting the dots and make sure that you can have a new narrative, not based on tragedy, but based on our capacity to act and to provide solutions. The humankind, the humanity needs to believe that you can act better. So don't postpone anything more. Let's decouple things, make sure what our bottlenecks, short-term perspective. Unfortunately, some countries that believe that they are the donor of the power, they don't have alternatives. I'm sorry, but it's true. Okay, and we need to have the voice of the global society to come together, to the business sector, to make sure that we can move the piece in the right direction. My last comment, observe the new flows, trade, financial system, IMF reform. We have different things happening today around the world. We need to observe this, understand this, and make a good alignment to make sure that we can avoid the fragmented big picture that only what is the consequence? What are the consequences of this? We postpone things. We need to act and act based on our reality. So welcome to Brazil and COP30, and I will promise low carbon caipirinha. Okay?
Hey.
Misha, thank you very much. I have to go. Sorry.
Thank you so much for joining us, Isabel.
Yes, agriculture, Brazilian agriculture will provide low carbon caipirinha. It's a brand. It's a brand.
I mean, the caipirinhas, we all have to have
Can you
some
imagine
caipirinhas.
this? No sugar, traceability. So I can identify the drunks. Okay.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And yeah, no, you've got to leave. Thank you. And Andre, thank you so much for your comments as well. I think I think what was. You've got a lot on your plate over the next couple of years, not just the G20, not just COP30, but other hosting as well. But I mean, I think it puts you in an amazing position to kind of drive things forward. And I know the government has already been doing huge amounts with the work on forests, and the ecological transition plan is super exciting. And we were having conversations earlier as well about how could, what's the opportunity to kind of showcase solutions in Belém and in Pará as well, which I think is great. So I think moving now a little bit to, so the people who can help you, right? How do we bring the community? We talked a lot about the connection, the partnerships needed to really drive forward outcomes towards COP30. So, Kevin, I'm really excited we've got you here. Natura, you're involved in all of these different organisations, in Sabedis, in WBCSD, in We Mean Business, also, obviously based in Brazil. I think really interesting to hear from you, how is business engaging in this? What's the opportunity? What is business going to bring? How is business going to be supporting action on the road to Belém?
Yeah, first of all, thanks Sabedis and We Mean Business to invite us. I think that let me start before I move in about my points. I would like to make the final remark in the beginning, and then I'm going to build why I'm putting this in front. We have seen not only in Brazil, but in so many countries that even though we host very international events like Olympic Games, like World Cups, that the legacy that we generate is very short-term. There is a lot of investments, there is a lot of criticism about the type of investments, but there is no long-term return. And I do consider that it's important, and that is going to be the pledge for all the private sector to join forces with the public sector and the third sector to create a program that allows to have a legacy of sustainable development for the region. We are not talking just about the city of Belém. We are not talking just about Pará State. We are talking about at least the entire Amazon region, which is a large part is based in Brazil, but also it covers other eight countries in Latin America. So it's important to realize that even though the private sector can scale up some of the solutions, the private sector cannot handle the entire environmental and climate agenda by itself. It's important, of course, and we have seen not only by Marrakesh partnership, but so many, especially after the pandemic, these quality efforts. So the effort to make the deforestation, and Ambassador André made a very important highlight. When we're talking about the world emissions, we are talking about the energy transition. When we are talking about Brazil, it's totally unique because deforestation and land use play the majority of sources of emissions. And even when we are talking about the economy of the forest or economy of the standing forest or bioeconomy, whatever we want to name it, we are talking about that some things that even though the private sector can scale up, probably the philanthropy sector or the third sector might be able to support us in the developments of some proof concepts that is needed to realize what is the best development model that we need to implement. I would like just to highlight one of the simple cases, and I brought this very concrete example about a species that has been listed in IUCN Red List for so many years as a threatened species. It's a species that we went to study, and we realized that, we might use in one of our programs to deliver moisturized benefits for a hand cream lotion. But the most important one is that we can generate better prosperity to local communities. So communities nowadays, they receive 3 times more income by collecting the seeds instead of chopping down the trees. And I think this way about to address social and environmental challenges to become and to transform in sustainable business solutions, that is the role that we claim to have other Natura, not only in Brazil, but even around the globe, that really embed into the business model the way to address the sustainability issues in a way that everyone we can generate beauty and prosperity to everyone. Sometimes it's difficult, and probably some of you might think that it's a paradigm that local communities or indigenous people, they do not want prosperity. Everyone wants prosperity. Maybe the level of prosperity that they desire is a little bit different from the prosperity for those who live in urban cities. So I think that is the point that we need to join forces. I think that it's important to realize, and the way that I was making the initial intervention about the private sector cannot handle by itself the agenda, is because there is need to create the right infrastructure. And of course, public sector play a very important role here. And we are talking about going beyond tax benefits. We are talking about to create. It's very important that every citizenship, we have the rights to receive public educations with high quality, as well to access food, and of course to have access to health system. So it's going to be amazing to see the improvements, because so many cities in Brazil, we suffer a little bit, even with simple issues about access to basic sanitation infrastructure and so on. So I think that Isabella highlighted as a fair development. So my hope is that we can scale up in a program that we are going to create in these next few months in order to create a long-term legacy for at least the Amazon rainforest, but hope not only to the global south, but to the entire world.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Kevin. Thank you. And so now I want to move, and I think great to kind of hear those specific examples. I think that's always really helpful to see what the opportunity is and what the possibility is, what's happening already, but what can be scaled. I think really would kind of move a little bit onto the kind of partnerships and how we build the right partnerships. So Madalena, great to have have you here. I want to hear a little bit about, because you focused a little bit more on the energy transition, so kind of different topic away from nature. What are the opportunities there? How do we build the partnerships? How can the international community as well and kind of engage with Brazil as we move forward to Belém?
Okay, thank you, and thank you for having me. So first of all, I would introduce EDP, because EDP is headquartered in Lisbon. It's a major green utility at the moment, but we are operating in 28 countries, markets, in the 4 regional hubs. So meaning that we have a big presence in Brazil, which is a very relevant market for EDP. And we have about 25% of our EBITDA coming from Brazil. So this is very relevant. Another point is the commitments that we have as a company, which affect our operations and promote our engagements as well in Brazil, which are that we are to become a full renewable company by 2030. We are phasing out totally coal, and we will be free of coal by 2025, and we will become net zero by 2040. And this means that supply chain and Scope 3 emissions are included, which is very relevant, for instance, for the SMEs that we were speaking about regarding the COP30. So moving forward, we have a climate transition plan that, speaking about credibility and accountability, that was presented at our shareholders' annual meeting, and it was approved, which points all our plan into this net zero commitment. And it was also recognized at the UN Climate Ambition Summit. So we have a lot of different technologies in our pipeline, and actually in Brazil we are active in the transmission, distribution and generation, mostly in the generation. We are, I would say, the 5th player in Brazil with hydro, solar and wind. And in December 2022 we just deployed the first molecule of green hydrogen. So it was the first one for EDP, and it was the first one for that region in Pecém in Brazil. So that was very interesting. In terms of partnerships, so COPs have been, I would say every COP has taken one strong line that we can hear. And going back a bit to the 3 last COPs, I would say that COP26, it was the multi-sectorial partnerships that really stood out. So for the first time, we had the private sector, and then we had the negotiation rooms, and they were going hand in hand. And a lot of multi-sectorial, including in deforestation, came out of COP26. Then on COP27, I would say that we had loss and damage, for sure, the fun, but we had for the first time the fossil fuel phrasing out at the negotiation text. And for this COP, I think, there's a lot still going on. It started off well. We had 2 major campaigns, one of them promoted by Women Business on the fossil fuel phase out, so fossil to clean. And this is really a call out to governments. I understand that the majority of emissions of Brazil is not energy, but in the world, it is. And another campaign which is tripling the renewables and doubling on energy efficiency efforts. So we know that we are totally off track. We in this room are the doers, the believers, the movers, the shakers. And so we need to believe that this 2.4, 2.6, 2.9, it has to come down. And we will make all efforts so that happens. So COP30, what is it going to be? I would say that there is a huge opportunity for the transition of the global south. There's a huge opportunity to really have the NDC's ambition empowered, but also in terms of national legislation and regulation to have concrete plans, not only on energy, but a major issue is, for instance, the integration between renewable projects, which we know are needed for the world to transition, but also the nature and biodiversity plans. They need to be integrated. There needs to be targets for both of them. And this is a major issue at COP as well. Obviously, the social part of the transition and getting to the benefits to be able to be acquired by so many citizens which are not facing yet the benefits of the transition. So I would end just with another note, which is maybe a suggestion that on the preparation to COP30, there is wide involvement from all the sectors that you were mentioning. So private sector, international organization, NGOs, business, which speak out for the collective voice of businesses, but not only, civil society as well, academia, and local governments, because local governments and businesses have really been the ones making the action and implementing the real solution. So a preparatory process would be, I would say, one of the key aspects to go for COP.
Fantastic.
I'm so sorry to interrupt, but I got a message. I have to go. I'm super happy to have come, but I have two questions. One, what is the name of the product?
It's super. Sorry, I forgot. Yeah, you're totally right. I mentioned it was in the IUCN Red List. It's a seed called Ucuba. It's a tree called Ucuba, and nowadays it was removed from IUCN Red List. And someone is going to be lucky to receive this sample in the end of the panel.
Yeah, that's good. I see I'm not. Yeah, because I'm leaving early. But thank you so much for the invitation, and be sure I totally agree with you. By the way, Natura is talking about that, but it's not a small business. It's a gigantic business, probably the second or third largest beauty company in the world. So fourth now. Hey, you just sold the part, that's why. But anyway, but so you see the scale of Brazil. I mean, this is the one very important, and local governments, I totally agree. We're working very much with Pará in that sense. And you will pardon me that I abandoned you before.
Thank you, André. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us. And we're all here to support you. So, please count on our support. Thank you so much for coming. Really appreciate it. Madeleine, I think that was a great I think it was great to hear about how far we've come, right? If we look back, sometimes I think we forget to do that and really see how much progress we've made. But I think that's also a kind of challenge. Like, what does it look like at COP30? What is the success look like? What comes out of it? And how to ensure all of those partnerships and communities are engaged. And I think, Marina, that is what, you are doing so well and thinking about already. So, I mean, would you like to share a little bit more about, what are you doing as Sabedges? How are you thinking about kind of bringing the business community together, engaging at the local level, engaging at the national level and international level? And share a little bit more about that.
Thank you so much, Jennie, and thank you, each one of you here, because I think that's the point. We're going to count on you to make this journey from Dubai to Belém and beyond. We have talking to Australia as well to see what will be the next COP after Belém. And I think we have such a great partnership here, because we have women business with its campaign, its voice, but we have also developing some areas with the World Business Council to improve the content of the COPs, of the business. So I think that's a very good alliance. We also are doing a lot of things inside the country, inside Brazil. And tomorrow, if you are here, please join us at 3 p.m. We're going to launch a partnership with Garapé and JGP to launch a blended finance mechanism to really think about how to move, how to scale up, because I think that's the point, Madalena. We don't have, like in the north, we don't have the resources that they have, but we have a lot of opportunities, as Isabella and André said. So how can you be more assertive? How can we really, without that much money, how to improve, and change our dilemma? And I think one other thing that our COP is really interesting in the blended finance that we're going to launch tomorrow, we'll talk about that as well, is how inequality, how can we move, to be more, have prosperity in our country. Brazil is one of the most unequal countries in the world. I think on G20, it's just, Africa, South Africa, and then Brazil. So it's a shame. And so that's, I think, the new model that Isabella was talking also. What is the new development model? Is the one that put persons in the center, in the middle. And that's what we have to do in Brazil, in Amazonia especially, because it's the poorest area that we have. But we have to do with business. We have to do in a business model that forest can be, standing forest, not only because you have command and control, but also because it makes sense for business and because we evaluate, the forest, but also energy transition, so many other issues that we have to include in the agenda of the COPs. So I think it's about to hear from you and see how we move ahead with this partnership. Thank you.
Fantastic, Marina, and you are such an icon and doing so much work for many, many years. So, and it's such a privilege to kind of meet, and I look forward to our work together. But now is the time for you to ask the questions that you have. We've got some fantastic, as you've already heard, we've got an amazing group of people here. What questions do you have? Or maybe you've got thoughts, maybe you've got ideas, things that you want to be bringing or working on towards COP. Maybe you've got, something where you want to ask for help from others. Anybody want to?
Yeah, I think, Jennie, maybe you can, each one of you, answer the question, that Jennie made for us here, how you think you can help with your business, in this journey. What do you think it would be necessary to do? How to move faster? How to be more ambitious? What do you think you can unblock, like finance and other things? So,
yes, this is a conversation. It's not just a Q&A. We're looking for ideas, we're looking for inspiration, we're looking for solutions, partnerships. Any thoughts? Was that a hand? Was that a hand?
Yes, hello. Hello, Marina. Hello, everybody. Vladimir Abreu from Tosini Freire. I'm a law firm in São Paulo. And, I think we really have to think on how each one on each specific sector can actually help. Right, I can come from my practice, and looking in everything that's going on, looking to Belém, it's going to be it's a huge challenge for the country and for the city, for the state of Belém, but we can deliver, But it's not going to be easy, but we will be able to make it happen. So. Yes. Well, getting together, all the companies and the clients, and helping them make it happen. Like this. I think each company and each business can bring things. Of course, my practice is the law, so everything that the law needs, we're going to be working on that to help.
Fantastic, and we definitely need the lawyers. Yes.
Okay, my name is Paula. Here is my husband Adilson, our partner Priscila. We own a company in São Paulo, recycle plastic, and we are the first recycle company in Brazil that signed the ONU Global Pact. And it's our first time in COP. So it's not a question, but he's asking me to say, how can you think we can contribute to all those changes and everything about all those subjects that we are seeing here?
Can I contribute to that question? And Marina, this is I would say the side of a business as well. So for us, being part of international organizations representing the collective position of our sector was very important. But where we felt that the difference was really made in terms of climate action was in organizations such as we are not members, but we are partnering with women business in specific campaigns. We are members of WBCSD, which is the global network where CBED is a part of as well. And in these kind of organizations, you really find you're like-minded and you're able to bring your own concerns, because sometimes you want to showcase what you're doing, but some others you want to do better and you want to learn. And in this kind of like-minded environments, you can really make these partnerships and improve your own contribution, I would say.
Marina, did you want to add anything? No, that's fine.
Yeah, if I may just add, it's interesting to see, especially here, if you're attending for the first time, it's for the first time as well that the green zone is double the size of the blue zone. And at the green zone, you have so many concrete solutions, and with companies from totally different size. And I think that COP is a moment also for those who are not policymakers, also to contribute a little bit and to create this network, to learn from others, and of course to establish new partnerships.
Thank you. We've got a couple of people. Yes, one there, and then here, and then.
Hi. Okay. Hi. Good morning. Good morning. Good afternoon. I am Andrea from JBS Fund for the Amazon. In my opinion, I think that in Brazil we have a lot of actions being made by the companies, but maybe now it's time to get scale, and maybe now it's time to do things more, I would say, together in line that we are talking more collectively, especially within the sectors. So to get scale alone is very difficult, even to big companies as JBS. So I think that maybe to COP30, CBEDS can be a huge role in join this sector, to have more ambitious target, but together. So I think that is my comment for now.
That's it. That's what we're doing, Andrea. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Karen from Ende Brasil Energia, and we also are a representative from the electric sector in Brazil. And I think what we can do is, I really like a sentence that Isabella said sometimes, that our energy transition is different from the energy transition of the world. It's an opportunity, it's not a challenge, and it's an opportunity for us. And it's very popular in Brazil. We said, what we can do, it's not to slip in the point, it's to better use the opportunities to put Brazil in the leadership of the climate journey.
Fantastic, thank you, please.
So thanks a lot. You're running a lot of risk when you open the microphone for many Brazilians here. So I don't know how many
No,
hours.
I think this is great. I'm loving this. This is like creating the group that's going to drive things forward. I'm looking forward to you all coming together at COP30 and what we're going to achieve together. Please.
Oh, that's good. So Arthur Ramos from BCG. It's a partner of the conference, a part of CBEDS and many discussions. So I think 2 points already highlighted by Marina. I think we need to have a clear net zero plan. I think Brazil can showcase all the advantages and deal with all the problems that we have in COP30. So this could be a showcase for the world how to do that. If you want to be the first G20 country to be net zero. And as we move in improving the specific things in forest and land use that are important, the other things will be highlighted because it's a little bit, it's not relevant. There are a lot of things to do in transport, a lot of things to do in energy, a lot of things to do in industrial use and other. So those areas will increase percentage and that will be also relevant. And the second thing for the private sector, because this is a very complex event, I think there is a lot of things that I think Brazil has no idea how to participate, showcasing what they do, but also participating on the key forum, key negotiations. So there's a lot of things I think from Marina has a big task list here that needs to be supported. But I think I'll use the word education, but I think there's a lot of education how we can be effective on this on COP30. Okay?
Fantastic. I think that's super interesting. And I'm loving the kind of positive, the desire to kind of lean in and help and support, but some of the kind of concrete ideas. I don't know whether any, like, because you were sort of saying you've been engaged in some of the kind of more towards the negotiations engagement. I mean, do either of you have any kind of reflections on that as a kind of business engaging in the COP? How do you utilize it to be as effective as possible?
I'm going to be very pragmatic. You need to, when I say you, I mean us, I mean every representative of the private sector and civil society needs to be very pragmatic on what do I need to advance. In the case of the energy transition, there's a huge need for regulatory stability, for permitting processes, for this kind of integration of energy plans with biodiversity and nature plans and just transition, because without it, we're competing for land uses, different land uses, and we have huge problems. So there needs to be stable regulation on the one side. There needs to be incentive to innovation. There needs to be the phase out of fossil fuels. There needs to be targets of countries really not cross-subsidizing renewables and fossil fuels. So there needs to be a harmonization. So once we get what we call the key messages or policy asks right, then we need to identify who are our main stakeholders. Are they the organizations that collectively can speak for us? Are we aligned with our peers, with our suppliers? And how can we get to the decision makers? And if we are a collective voice, like we did for this COP, we did the major 2 points on energy, where the fossil to clean and the tripling renewables. This is getting through. Yesterday it was announced 180 countries subscribing to the triple renewables. We don't know if that's going to go into the negotiation text. Maybe it's a sideline, but it's a start.
Thank you very much. Did you want to add anything? No? I mean, I would just echo that, having been to a few COPs and being on the government side as well, there is so much going on. I think a lot of people, feel like they have to be at COP, but, to really achieve something, to drive something forward, you've got to be really clear about what you want to deliver. And it's strong voices together that get cut through. And just to say on the tripling renewables, I mean, that's been a kind of year. It's not just that you start at COP, you start a long way before, and it's been even before that, right? It's the analysis, it's the coming together, it's getting the really clear comms messages, it's getting the people and stakeholders on board. But, there's the opportunity to do that now with the kind of next 2 years. Did you want to add, Maria?
Yeah, I just loved what Madalena was saying, because I think we have to prioritize some issues and make campaigns and mobilize people to that. So maybe that's one of the tasks here that we have. What are the priorities that we have to move? What are the catalytic changes, exponential changes that we have to move? And maybe that's one question that we have to be in mind in this journey to Belém.
Fantastic. Any other thoughts? I think we've got a few more minutes for... Yes.
No, and I think that, COP30 is going to be such a great opportunity for Brazil to showcase all the amazing things that we also have in Brazil. Like, for example, saying that 66.3% of our territory is preserved. It's also a great opportunity for the agribusiness sector of Brazil to showcase the nice things that the agribusiness sector has, and not to be portrayed as, as the bad guys. Like, there's also an opportunity on this side of things for people to take advantage of.
Yeah, fantastic. And I think one of the announcements as well was on the commitments around regenerative agriculture. And that is a kind of a plan as well to kind of deliver towards COP30 and have real tangible outcomes to show. And I think to build on that. So I think there's a lot of opportunity in the kind of agricultural space. And I think a lot of people wanting to international as well, communities and business wanting to work with Brazil as well. Yes, please.
It's working. It's working.
Hello? I can just speak really loud. Oh, there we go. Hi, everyone. Kyle Sakis. I work for Climate Advisors. I work with the IFAC initiative and also the Orbit House initiative. We look at the climate risks, both the physical but also the transition risks within the land use sector. I think we have a good idea that there are a ton of risks on the physical side from climate change for Brazil and many other nations across the world. But what I think we haven't been able to do so far yet is get to the solutions that we do have and the economic potential of those. For instance, the Amazon bioeconomy, which we've been talking about. how do we accelerate the process of getting the private sector to see that opportunity, trust that opportunity, change their financing mechanisms or behaviors or systems, to bring in more public finance to de-risk the efforts to really shift from the short-term models that we have now to that long-term view that you were talking about, Kevin. Especially as we only have like 6 more harvests before 2030, is a term I've heard a lot about. So happy to talk about that more later, but yeah, that's just one challenge that is on my mind.
Thank you. Do you want to, Kevin, or?
Yeah, I think that Marina highlighted one of the events that they're going to show up tomorrow that is going to be one of the examples. We have seen in the region so many of issues about green bonds, sustainability-linked bonds. But I do consider that with the new frameworks that we have been seeing released by ISSB and others, whenever they are going to be regulated for the national security authorities, I think that more and more companies are going to realize that it's an agenda that at the same time you need to prove that you have resilience when we are talking about the level of exposure that you have on risks. But at the same time, we need to understand that the other side of the balance, it's opportunities, which means that even though the opportunities are for the short term because you're addressing in a faster way than your competitors, or even you are creating a competitive advantage in your sector. So I think that is the part that people inside the companies are going, and executives are going to realize that without embedding this mindset in the business strategy, it's going to be impossible, because nowadays it's going to be impossible to deliver. Nowadays it's very clear with the new regulation that these kind of responsibilities cannot be relied just under the sustainability department. It should be under the responsibility for each one of the employees that we have in the company, starting from the chairman of the board, the CEO of the company, all the VIPs, but everyone, because in the end of the day you need to embed these in your daily activities.
I would just add one point, is that, for instance, in Europe, you have a new directive, which is the reporting directive, which obliges you to follow the TCFD, meaning that you need to disclose the impacts that your operations have on climate, but as well the implications and impacts that climate has on your company. And this is very eye-opening for the companies that have been doing this. Right now, the obligation will be for much more companies. So I believe in some years, we will, no matter the size, we will all be doing that. But I would add one point, is that if you don't bring the financial institutions on board, and if you don't get this kind of information into the financial institution, we can identify the risks, but the opportunities.
Thank you, great. And I think I just highlight, because Peter Backer, the CEO of WBCSD, he launched a CEO guide on the kind of climate-related corporate performance and accountability system, which is very much about this issue and kind of setting out a framework for what's needed, and exactly what it, like a kind of checklist for CEOs to think about in terms of their company, about how they really embed this, and how to make sure we get a system that's connected into the financial system. And I think it'd be great to see, because I know Brazil's been coming forward with some work on carbon markets, but it'd be great to see, what's more could we do with some of the kind of Brazilian business ecosystem in this space going forward.
No, that's why we are, as Kevin said, we're going to launch, and we're very concerned about that. We have a lot of financial institutions at BCSD Brazil, public and private banks, the developing bank, Natalia was here, so it's a very powerful area, and I think Banco do Brasil and some other institutions, I think we are in a momentum. As I can see, I've been so many COPs. I don't know about you, what you think, but I think we are in a plateau that is, we can really see how exponential changes you can have from now on. It has to be faster, of course, but I think it's speeding. It's getting a momentum. It's a bit different. So, in the financial sector is a key for that.
Fantastic. Any final? One or two final? If not, I think, just be great for each, both of you first of all, I'm going to give Marina a bit more time to wrap up. what are you going to be doing now for the next 2 years? I'm going to be channeling Hala, who's from the B team. He's talking a lot about courageous leadership, the need to, we think a lot of in our minds, a lot about the kind of challenges, the data, the analytics, but also need to kind of connect with our hearts, connect with humanity, connect with, and really find the courage to kind of drive things forward. So, just a kind of couple of things of, what is it you're going to be, you really hope to be kind of driving forward over the next 2 years and kind of showing up with a courageous leadership.
Yeah, I can start. You know that you're talking about Hala, and I was lost to get this B team event today, this morning, because it was in the green zone. And finally, I realized, because after 1 hour to try to change the venue, there is one of the guys that, of course, took a lift in these electric cars that they have over there. And he was an Australian doctor that were attending COP for the first time. And he was asking everyone, why you are attending the COP? And when I asked him this question, and he told me, because in my city, we have 3 nature extreme events. One of them, it was a bushfire, and we need to evacuate our hospital in a very short term. And then I was thinking to myself, he was saying, I was thinking to myself that I need to do something. So that is the reason he traveled from Australia to Dubai in order to figure out what are the solutions. So I think in the end of the day, sometimes we complain about governments, we complain about private sector, but in the end of the day, we are the citizenship. We are the ones that make the choices about what are the services, what are the products that we want to buy, what are the politicians that we want to vote. So I think in the end of the day is making better choices and starting the change by ourselves instead of to request the change by others. So walk the talk.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to get your answer. And I absolutely agree, it's the choices. And what I'm doing in the private sector is exactly working so that you can have the choices that are best aligned with climate and nature action. So that will be my main target, is guaranteeing that within EDP, within my professional work, that whatever we are deploying is absolutely aligned with science, with what science is telling us for climate and nature. In climate, I think most companies that have been here for some time now and have a certain dimension and are especially based in Europe and places that have regulatory demanded this from us, we are in a better position. But nature is a challenge. And so that will be, for the 2 years, my target.
Front and center. Thank you so much. Marina, love for you to kind of give some closing remarks. What have you taken from this? What's your message to people, your kind of call to action as we go away from this session?
Yeah, I when finally that decided the COP would be in Brazil, I some energy, that I thought I didn't have. I realized that I was there because I had to do something. I think everyone in their areas need to do something because it's a really important opportunity. And I think André, the Ambassador André, told about that because we had G20, we have COP in 2 years, we have the government, we have the civil society more sensitive about those issues. So I never saw such a thing, You have this alliance between all those areas, but of course, if you don't pay attention, if you don't do our best, we're going to lose this. And we always have that risk. But the opportunities are there. So I think, as Kevin was saying, Madalena, yourself, if we have to do each one in our areas the best we can, and has to be, in a collaborative way. But the collaboration is there. It's open. I think we're in a momentum that's really open. And what I want from you, I think, from now to Belém, and we, in partnership with the World Business Council and the Women Business, and thank you, Carol, for hosting us here. What I want from you is to really try to focus on how can we help and accelerate internally in our country, but also outside our country to a new development model that maybe we can be the first example. We can reach net zero without any new technology. It's easier for us. And I think the combination is really nice because our opportunities is until 2030 maybe, and the developer world is until 2050. So if you use this correctly, our energy, I think we can really help the world to move on for net zero. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Marina. Thank you so much to the panelists. I think this is an invitation, a call to be part of Team Belém, working together, both with all of the energy that you have wherever you are, but also together. And I think that's the way. I think what I've also heard is so much positivity, such a sense of possibility about what it is possible for us to achieve. And I think that's been a huge shift over the past few years. A sense that we can move things, we can shift things, we can do it faster than we think. And particularly when we work together. So thank you so much to Women in Business for hosting this. Thank you so much, Marina and Cebedges. Thank you so much to the fantastic panelists. And yes, on together.
Thank you, Jennie. Thank you all the team.